Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Good.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this program, which is the FirstBank MREIF Home Loan Scheme webinar that has been put together by FirstBank and organized by the Diaspora Collective. It is a pleasure to have you all present in the room. We have had so many questions, so many observations, and a lot of excitement and engagement, and we can't wait to get started. So without further ado, because we do like to keep to time and make sure that we answer as many of your questions as possible, I would like to introduce the Diaspora Collective lead, who will be taking us through an introduction session, and then we will get the program started immediately. Dr. Malcolm Fabi, if you'd like to take over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. Can you confirm that you can see my screen? Okay, thank you. So we want to welcome everybody to today's session. Thank you for taking the time out of a very busy Saturday in summer for those of you in diaspora, and for the partner organizations, for the FirstBank team, for the MOFI team, for the ARM team that are also participating from Nigeria. We want to thank you for taking the time as well. We're not sure how many folks will end up joining today, but this was a session that a lot of people were very interested in attending. There were almost 190 persons registered for the session across 14 countries, and we got lots of questions. Those questions covered 15 separate themes, and all those questions and the themes that they cover have been shared with the panel. And what we're hoping for today is that, a lot of the questions, concerns, sometimes perhaps skepticism and, curiosities about the program will be answered. But what we thought would be useful before jumping into the session itself was to give you a flavor for some of the things that were asked. In terms of the agenda, there are, 5 big agenda areas. Rachel has covered agenda point number 1, which is the welcome. And what I'm doing now is agenda item number 2, which is just providing you with introductions and the overview of the program. Then we will have 3 more items. The next item on the agenda will be a deep dive by the FirstBank Diaspora Bank into the FirstBank Diaspora Bank offerings. And we would have 2 people from FirstBank, Abimbola Meshinoye and Chukwuka Okonkwo, walk us through exactly what the program covers, the diaspora offerings of the bank, and essentially provide us with some detailed overviews of exactly what this program is intended to do and what's in it for those of us in diaspora. We also happen to have with us today the architects of the program. So MOFI is here present. That's the Ministry of Finance, Real Estate Investment Fund program drivers, in the person of Sani Yakubu, who is the national coordinator. And then we also have somebody from ARM, who is the head of real estate investment, Olubi Adekunbi, who is also present. And so we would have both the perspective of the bank as well as the perspective of the program architects themselves from the government as well as their investment managers. And then we will close out in the final 20 to 30 minutes of today's conversation with questions and answers. What we're hoping for, again, we've taken all of your questions, all 100 plus questions that we got, the themes of those questions, we've made those available to the panelists. And so what you will find during their conversation is that they will try as much as possible to preemptively address those questions. Whatever questions are not addressed during their presentations, we will have an opportunity at the end of this session to just open up the floor and bring people on to ask whatever questions they have that are yet unanswered. As Rachel indicated, this session today is organized by the Diaspora Collective. We're a group of folks across different countries in the diaspora. And a lot of you are friends, colleagues, partners, acquaintances. Some of you are acquaintances of acquaintances. And so this is a collection of people who, we're all here because we know each other and we've known of one another one way or the other. And what we've done historically is to organize sessions that are focused on how we can be more engaged in the diaspora. The reason why we're organizing this particular session, and it's the first one we're organizing for any Nigeria-based program, is because we believe this program, sounds like a really interesting program. There could be value in it for Nigerians who want to find ways to either give back by finding additional means of reinvesting in the country, or who simply have an interest in building real estate opportunities in Nigeria, either for investment reasons or for retirement reasons. So people have lots of questions, and what we're doing today is just to facilitate a conversation. So we also have as many questions as you do. And what we're doing today is just to facilitate a conversation and make sure that the people who can best answer those questions are in the room. And so going to our panel, we have a great panel today. We have folks from FirstBank, and we have folks from MOFI, the real estate investment fund of the government that's driving this program. And then we also have a participant from the investment managers, ARM, the investment managers. So just very quickly, we have Chukwuka Okonkwo. He's the head of personal banking at FirstBank, comes with over 19 years of experience, and he leads FirstBank's entire consumer and enterprise digital lending business. We also have Uzoamaka Ihegaze. Uzoamaka is the head of security documentation and transactional support. Uzoamaka will be driving and supporting a lot of the Q&A section when we do get to that. We have Abimbola Meshinoye. Abimbola is the head of the Diaspora and Expatriate Banking Division at FirstBank. Abimbola, some of you might already know her because of the work she does in the diaspora. But Abimbola again leads the diaspora and expatriate proposition offerings in FirstBank and has extensive experience across other institutions. Then we have Sani Yakubu, the national coordinator for MOFI, the Real Estate Investment Fund. And he is responsible for overseeing MREIF at the Ministry of Finance Incorporated. And so we have the benefit and privilege of having one of the key program architects present here with us today. We also have Olubiyi Adekunbi on the panel. He's the head of real estate investment at ARM. They are the investment managers, and he manages MREIF at ARM. And we again will have the benefit of his extensive experience, which that's focused mostly on real estate investments and portfolio management. So today promises to be a very interesting session. Before we dive into the panel conversations, here are some of the things you asked. So the individuals here who submitted questions, the questions you asked, but I'm sure you also might be interested in what other people were asking. And there were 4 big areas that we got the questions from. There were questions around qualification. So how do I qualify? What are the criteria? What do I need to have? What information, what collateral assets would the bank and the program managers need to know before I can participate in this program? There were also another set of questions, mostly around rates, repayments, and total cost. Questions around the rates themselves. How is it possible that you can have these seemingly heavily subsidized rates in a high interest rate market? Are there variations that are possible to the loans, and different things about what percentage of the loans that are required can be financed? There were also questions around how you can utilize the funds. So there were questions around, can the funds be used for projects that we already have? What if I already have land? What if I'm already building a project? What if I want to do this in conjunction with other people? So quite a few questions around that. And then there were also questions around where these funds and these investments can be deployed. So mostly around, locations within the country, geographical locations where the funds can be deployed. The next set of questions, and the reason why a lot of these questions were coming are just, again, basically concerns around, yes, it sounds interesting, but how safe are my funds? And so what we are looking forward to is to have the panel answer these questions for us. Is the scheme genuine? What's in place to make sure that we can prevent fraud? There's a huge concern amongst those who are here today about what happens to their funds, what happens to their down payments, what is the time interval between when a down payment is made and when the funds are disbursed, and why there's a particular question, again, and we're hoping the FirstBank team will address this, is why is FirstBank involved and interested in supporting this particular program? And then questions around who the bank works with. And as I said, we have the benefit of having present today the architects and the fund managers for the program. So ARM is present, MOFI is present, and they'll be able to answer those questions that are outside of the scope of the bank. There are also questions around title, zoning, demolition risk. If I take these funds and I go and get land, how do I make sure that at the end of the day, it's not going to be money wasted if somebody tells me I was not able or supposed to build on that land in the first place? So are there ways in which some of these concerns that a lot of folks in diaspora have can be preemptively addressed? And then the size of the fund. So just a lot of questions about the fund, its sourcing, its structure, and its implementation. And at a high level, some of the additional things that were asked and that we're hoping can also be addressed are things like, who can participate? Is it only individuals? Can I come with a group of people? What about property management? Are there vendors that are going to be recommended? Are there vendors that FirstBank's already working with? Are there projects already on the ground and all that one needs to do is to buy into those projects? So how is it being run? How is the projects being managed? And then again, questions around security, exchange rates, and there are also a number of people who are just, again, trying to get information. And that's the key driver for their attendance today. So to get the most out of this, right after this, we're going to jump into the panel sessions. But to get the most out of this, please, when we get into the Q&A section, listen to the panelists very carefully. If your questions are not answered, then we have an opportunity on the back end in the balance of the 20 to 30 minutes we will have after the panelists have gone through their materials to deep dive into questions as well. Please be as specific as possible in the questions that you're asking. If there are, and just keep a note of the questions you want answered. It may not be possible for us to have every single question answered today, but please just drop those questions in the chat. If we don't get to them, we promise and commit to you that we will certainly find answers to those questions. We'll publish a Q&A to address some of those additional questions if it means going back to the panelists to get them to respond to those. But be assured that whatever concerns or questions you have will be addressed by the panelists, will be addressed during the Q&A sessions. And outside of those two, we will make sure that there's an FAQ that's published with the questions and the responses to them. So without further ado, I will hand things back to you, Rachel, so that you can bring up the panelists. Again, welcome to everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Malcolm, for that thorough introduction. I'm going to jump right into it by introducing our very first panelist, and that is Abimbola Meshinoye. She is the head diaspora and expatriate banking at FirstBank with over 24 years experience in this industry. She leads FirstBank's diaspora and expatriate proposition after a career at Deutsche Bank, UBS, JP Morgan, and Lloyds of London. She has several degrees, including a BSc in Engineering Management from the University of Hertfordshire and an MBA from the Imperial College, London. And it is my pleasure to welcome Abim. I very much look forward to the session because I've seen some of the highlights and I know this is going to be thoroughly engaging and enlightening. So thank you very much. Welcome, Abim. Please let me know if you can hear me and if you are able to share your presentation.
Good evening from Lagos, and thank you very much, everyone, for having me. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Rachel and Dr. Fabi. I think you've already completed the program for us already, so we'll just manage ourselves until we finish the program. You've certainly set the foundation. I will take it from here. Please just bear with me as I share my screen. Okay.
You're muted, Abim.
Still muted.
Yeah, so I think when I shared the screen, it gave me the option of system. So I think I just you shouldn't click on that. Okay, let me try again. Is this better? Can you still hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, brilliant. So good evening again, everybody from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you very much for having me. And I'm just going to go straight into my presentation. I've been introduced already. And also just to set some context, I've actually just returned from a period of road shows in North America, where we were essentially just engaging, I'm sure, very much customers or prospective customers like yourselves in the room, certainly people in diaspora who asked them very similar questions to some of the things that Dr. Fabi has spoken to already. We hear you, we understand your mind, and we believe that by the end of this session with us today, we'll certainly be able to not only answer your questions, but hopefully be able to encourage you and support you to really take advantage of the opportunity that the government has brought to the table. And Nigerians are taking advantage of it already. So, hey, why shouldn't those in diaspora also take advantage of this opportunity? So, like I said, going straight into my presentation for us, really, I'll just say a little bit about FirstBank. Of course, we've been in existence for about just over 132 years. We're trusted. We are well known. And we have built our legacy on the fact that through different cycles, through different economic cycles, we continue to remain strong. We're stable. We continue to be innovative. We listen to our customers. We bring products and services that is consistent with what our customers are looking for and the times that we are moving. Essentially, when you look at banking services, for the longest time, of course, we know that those that were abroad typically struggled with being able to maintain or continue their banking from across the borders, so to speak. But that has changed a lot over the years. We're now in a place where non-Nigerians and even Nigerians living in diaspora are able to open their accounts and also continue their financial activities from outside of the country. FirstBank, through our various products and services, we empower Nigerians to essentially be beyond banking. It's about how do you grow your wealth. It's about giving you access to various instruments, whether whether those are cash-based instruments or whether they're physical assets such as real estate. FirstBank, again, we're here really just standing with our customers and supporting our customers on their growth journey. Like I said, we're a legacy that you can trust and certainly a future that you can bank on. Today we have I should have amended that. We have about just over 550 branches. We've been doing some consolidation. We have just over 15 million customers, and of course, we're listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We've won various awards year in, year out, too many to speak to here, but certainly we remain at the forefront of promoting our customers' lifestyles and businesses through innovative financial solutions and unwavering dedication to excellence. So particularly for diaspora banking, we like to say that in a world without borders, diaspora banking is the bridge which enables access, it accelerates growth and redefines how wealth is created globally for our customers. Pretty much my team and I, we are a dedicated business. We operate out of 35 Marina, which is the head office for FirstBank. And we basically provide tailored banking solutions to Nigerians who live and work in diaspora. The expatriate part of my portfolio also looks at foreigners who come to live and work in Nigeria. And we have a dedicated solution for those customer types as well. Across all of this, of course, I've been able to provide the financial services solutions in a very seamless manner is at the heart of what we do. And yes, I will continue. I will speak more to some of the things that we do. I'm not going to speak to every single slide because some of them I've sort of spoken to it already in one form or the other. I think what I really just need to communicate, most importantly for Nigerians in diaspora, I think is the ease of access to the diaspora desk. Beyond being able to open the account end to end online. This is a first, and it's something that we're very proud of. It's also about the fact that you have the comfort and the confidence that your banking literally is at the tip of your fingers. We're just down the line, whether you want to give us a call, whether you want to reach us via email, whatever the case is, we're certainly just down the line. We have observed over time that this was like a pain point for customers or even prospects, the ability to just pick up the phone and be able to engage with somebody. And I can reassure you that that is something that is at the heart of who we are and what we do. And access is very important for us. Part of what we also do is really just making sure that beyond providing basic banking services, we're also able to provide guidance and advisory services on different products, investment instruments, especially that customers typically are asking for, and things that may be outside of our own portfolio. Then yes, we would put you in contact with our colleagues in other parts of the First Holdco group. So from a well, I think I've spoken to most of this already, so I'll just quickly move on. Again, I've spoken to some of this already in terms of the fact that we deliver convenient, secure, and responsive services across all touch points. Our digital channels, again, from once a customer has been able to successfully open their account on the web account opening platform, they're able to do all their banking transactions online, whether it's banking apps called First Mobile or Lit by FirstBank. We also have the First Online for those that prefer online-based banking, and then we have other virtual solutions for our customers. Of course, again, we have dedicated relationship managers who are very, very experienced. They're very customer-centric. They're able to speak to a broad range of products and services. And diaspora banking essentially is targeted at corporates. We have corporates outside of Nigeria, whereby the company is registered in Nigeria. They need banking services, and they come to us. Of course, we deal with individuals as well, whether they're career professionals, whether they're students, whether they're entrepreneurs, even retirees. We cater to them. And of course, to the extent that even religious groups as well, and also Nigerian associations, essentially a broad range of target audience that we offer banking services to. Today, we offer banking across the US, across Americas, Canada, Europe, of course, Africa, definitely. We also across Asia, and also we're starting to see a lot of traction from Australia. We're seeing, especially in our medical field, we're seeing a lot of nurses and doctors moving to Australia, and again, we're able to successfully service those customers. Some of what we also offer on a monthly basis, we run customer clinics, just to really support our customers, again, as part of banking services, and again, in making sure they're able to interact with us, they're able to get their questions or their queries resolved. I've spoken to the fact that we've just come from a roadshow where, again, we literally took FirstBank outside of Nigeria and we took it to meet our customers across different parts of the US. We had things around account opening. We had existing customers come to speak with us about their accounts. We were able to issue cards, bank cards to customers. We were able to enroll customers for BVN, and we did that for free. We were also able to work with NIN agents. You can't operate. CBN has mandated that you can't operate a bank account without NIN and BVN. So those were very important, and we really had a huge turnout for all of these things that I've spoken to already. And of course, investment opportunities was also part of what customers were able to ask us about. I've spoken to this already. Okay, so just to speak to a bit more around the investment instruments that we have. We have fixed deposits, we have treasury bills, we have bonds, and we have sale and buyback. And then we have other money market instruments that customers can access. And where customers are interested, particularly in real estate, we also have a platform called the Home and Abroad platform. That platform essentially was set up for the ease of customers, certainly those in diaspora, to be able to acquire customers in a safe and secure manner. So the Home and Abroad platform is really, if you can almost think of Amazon, right? People go on there, they register individuals that want to buy a property, and then also developers, they also showcase their own properties that they have for sale on that same platform. And the role that FirstBank plays in between the buyers and the seller is really just to make sure that we only bring preferred developers, people that have been developers that have a track record, developers that have been vetted, okay, and really also offering that safety and security that there won't be any stories where your money is concerned. We don't release monies to developers until the buyer has essentially done all the necessary checks and is convinced that indeed this is the property that they want. So that's the role that FirstBank plays on that Home and Abroad platform. And of course, Chukwuka would also be speaking to the home loan options that we have on offer for you. Some of the other offerings that we have, as far as if you were to open a FirstBank account, in addition to the regular current account, savings account, we also have things around cashback, cash collateralized credit card facilities, which are really tailored for customers that feel that they need that extra float if they were sort of a bit short. We offer remittance and FX, and also the opportunity to do to open multi-currency accounts. So your accounts will not just be in Naira, we could also, open accounts in dollars, in pound sterling, and in euros as well. And in order to be able to open the account, I'll show you the QR code that will certainly be circulating outside of here today. So some of the other things that we have is the virtual card. For those that prefer not to have the physical card, then they can go with the virtual card option. So pretty much spoken to much of what Diaspora Banking does, spoken to our current accounts, savings accounts, kids accounts, and spoken to how you can interact and engage with us. And having a FirstBank account is really the entry point to being able to get access to the MREIF loan. And whether you're an existing FirstBank account or whether you're going to be a new customer, all of that, it does not make any difference. And we're certainly open to working with you on your journey of hopefully home ownership. So that's it for me. There's just some details around myself and my team. I will certainly share this with the team later on for circulation. And this was that. Oh, okay. There we go. I'll share my QR code for how you open a bank account later on. So that's it for me. On that note, I'm going to hand over to Chukwuka Okonkwo, who will take us through really why we're here today in terms of helping you to secure your dream home in Nigeria. So over to you, Chukwuka. Thank you. Or was I handing over to Rachel? Sorry, Rachel.
Either or, that's fine. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome Mr. Chukwuka Okonkwo. Chukwuka is the head of personal banking FirstBank. He has close to 20 years experience in the industry. He leads FirstBank's consumer and enterprise digital lending. The business under his oversight has disbursed over 1.3 million naira to 1.5 million users. He is also very well educated with a BSc from Obafemi Awolowo University, a certified product manager and associate of the Chartered Risk Management Institute. Mr. Chukwuka Okonkwo, it is a pleasure to bring you on board. Please unmute and let me know if you can hear me.
I can hear you, Pedro.
Splendid. Please take the stage.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you so much. Can you hear me and can you see me? Can you confirm?
Yes, we can.
Can I be seen? Thank you. So thank you and good day, everyone. So good evening from Lagos. Speaking from Lagos. My name is Chukwuka Okonkwo, as I've been introduced, and it's my pleasure to have this presentation, to do justice to this presentation today. My colleague Abim have done a good job in introducing FirstBank, right? I always refer to FirstBank as a behemoth and a heritage. You know, I've looked at the demography of the participants today, and it's also appealing to me to know that we're quite very vast and experienced, cutting across different industries and verticals. So apparently, we all know FirstBank. So I will be taking us through the meat of today's discussion, which is how do we secure our dream home? I was having a conversation recently, and I mentioned to someone that owning a home in Nigeria, from all I know, is something that's emotional to most of our brothers and sisters that reside in the diaspora, especially for those of us that spent for a while and always long to come home to see relatives. So Abim, just help me move the slide. So apparently, again, before, as Dr. Fabi had earlier mentioned, before this session, we had received quite some number of questions. So what we did here was to fuse. It's not the ideal come and tell you about FirstBank home loan solution, mortgage solution, or about MREIF specifically. But what we did was also to fuse those questions into my presentation so that as I journey along the presentation, you find out that most of your questions have already been answered upfront. So the opportunity to own a home in Nigeria while living abroad is quite compelling, as I mentioned. We're Africans, and particularly specifically we're Nigerians. So we are community-based, we love home, and we love family, right? Family-oriented. Can you hear me? Somebody say, can I be more audible? Am I more audible now?
Can hear you clearly, sir. Please go ahead.
I hear you.
Oh, okay. Somebody said I should be more audible. So, but there are challenges, and those challenges, those fears, definitely will be allayed in this session. And with us here also is Mr. Sani Yakubu, who is the architect and brainchild behind the Ministry of Finance Incorporated Real Estate Investment Fund, MREIF. As a bank, definitely, we won't get into transactions that will hurt us and also hurt our customer. So will you be protected? I can assure you that we have the expertise and everything it takes to run you through your mortgage solutions in Nigeria and also get you protected. Abim? So, of course, these are just market insights around what is the estimated remittance in Nigeria in terms of remittance that come from abroad. The remittance corridor in Nigeria is very heavy influence of FX, and it's also something that the central bank keep paying attention to. And today, let's just move first the slide so I can, right? So I've talked about legacy, I've talked about owning a home, coming back after retirement, and yeah. And I've also talked about the trust, the financing, the documentation. We're going to be dealing with the documentation. My colleague here, Uzamaki Hegansi, heads our securitization and mortgage documentation decks. Can we move on? Then I've talked about the genuineness of the property. So what we've done over time, we launched this scheme in January along with MOFI, right? So Mr. Sani can attest to that here. And what we've done in the last few months is also to scan across. We know the challenges about buying houses in Nigeria, especially in Lagos and Abuja, the major city centers. And what my team have done is to go all our way to screen and identify developers, right, who are quite genuine. So I'll mention up front that I don't know, most of us must have known or heard about the Lagos State Development Property Corporation, LSDPC. So I still met with the top management of LSDPC last week, and we have a couple of property in their portfolio, some nearly finished, some on the road to finish. So those are the kind of corporations. Then we're speaking to UPDC, and a couple of very high-profile real estate developers. So this secures us and also secures our prospective customers who are in attendance today to say we have enlisted some developers, very top ones, and then they have properties. So the strategy is to offer a one-stop home loan solution, mortgage solution, where we broadcast and introduce to our customers those properties. You make your choice, and then apparently we finance. Also, MOFI has a platform. When Mr. Yakub comes up, he will also show you the MOFI platform and the MOFI transaction dynamics. Our home loan and mortgage solution is, sorry, are we interchanging the mortgage? Is quite familiar to you, but the product here is called home loan product. So our mortgage solution is quite very simple. The first step is that it starts with a search being conducted by our legal services department, right? To be sure that the property itself is unencumbered, clean title, and an acceptable title for us to finance. Once it goes through that search and it's okay, then the documentation process now starts, the application form, which you will fill, and then other requirements. In this case, very important to us in this product program is, first of all, to identify the citizenship status of the applicants, the employment status of the applicants, the credit check history of the applicants. So our process is quite very seamless, and we're currently fine-tuning further. And in coming weeks, there's a work stream that the FirstBank MD UK, FirstBank UK CEO has set up just 2 days ago for us to work with FirstBank UK specifically on this home loan process and transactions. So good enough, as Habib earlier said, we have a very strong diaspora banking proposition and desk cutting across the Americas, Europe, Canada, and United Kingdom. So our BIM and team are frequent these areas. She says she just returned back. So our BIM, as the coverage and relationship person, will be taking those applications and guiding you through, while I support the transaction as a product owner from the product engine where I work as a product manager. I mean, can we just move on? Sorry. So I've mentioned earlier, so who is it for? Of course, Nigerians who reside in diaspora professionals. So we're also very keen on profiling, very, very keen on profiling, because we would also want to, mortgage is very tricky, especially in this climate. So we also don't want to burn our fingers. So we are looking at quite very selective fields of endeavor. We're going to be very specific about country of residence and all that. But these are the things that the agents we're going to be working with, and our subsidiary, FirstBank UK, will be helping us to sort out in terms of full pilot screening. MOFI, as it is, MREIF as it is a federal government structured intervention, right, from the Ministry of Finance and Incorporated, which is the SPV, right, that set up the fund, managed by ARM, the fund managers, who is also here. I've been mentioning MOFI, but the ARM guy is also here, right? And I think it's very intentional to cap the single obligor limit to 100 million, because actually this is meant to be an intervention that will go around all Nigerians, right? And then acceptable for, the scheme is for 20 years really, right? But the scheme, we are subscribers to the scheme, but again, internally, we as a bank are also allowed to profile based on our risk appetite. Each member bank also is to profile based on our risk appetite. Can you go on, Abim? Please, let's move on further. So as I mentioned earlier on, it's a single digit for 9.75 with the ancillary fees that comes with mortgage lending, and repayment is monthly. And for people abroad that we're speaking to today, those dynamics is that you first of all become a FirstBank customer. So you're going to be opening an account with Diaspora Banking in Naira, because the mortgage, the scheme, the loan will be disbursed in Naira, set up in Naira. So funding for repayment will be done by you, right? So this becomes a little bit tricky, because that is where my risk, the underwriters in risk are holding me down to say, look, how do you guarantee that folks in diaspora will pay back this loan at their own dictate, at their own volition? So, but we're going to be discussing some of those things probably in the breaker session when we get to the real question and answer section. So, I've actually pretty spoken about the journey. Then I've also mentioned about the requirements, right? So proof of residence, employment, income, evidence. Then bank statement will help, the means of identification, then other things. Remember, we're financing, you're purchasing in Nigeria. So the offer of the product will be done by the property, the owner and the developer who is selling to you. So we don't do offline, right? And then we will not finance land, and we will not finance uncompleted buildings. So it's specifically for completed buildings, right? Probably as we journey on in the proposition, maybe, but for now, we just have to start with a pilot, right? We've not done diaspora lending mortgage before now, So we're starting out as a bank, and we will, by law, there are still questions also about risk and repayment and all that. As I had mentioned earlier on, property verification is the first step. Our legal services do a very thorough job. Uzamaka will speak to that, and due diligence, so that we don't hurt ourselves and also hurt you, our customer, and the process is quite secure and very simple in terms of customer journey that we're trying to create, or we've created, and we're going to perfect and get better on it. So the frequently asked questions. So that I say that we've already done a lot of work to answer those questions upfront around the eligibility requirements, right? And what you need to do to assess the credit, the mortgage. I've talked about income, I've talked about employment status, the valid ID, the good credit history, the repayment capacity, and the acceptable title documents, which the onus lies on us to search very well and make sure that the title is unencumbered and clean. I've also mentioned how is the property value assessed. Definitely, that one is done by an approved and accredited estate valuer, right, who does the job. So apart from the search, the valuation report is also a denominator, is a fundamental before we could go ahead to put our money and finance. And it's strictly for FirstBank account holders. And I mentioned that the first step is to open a diaspora banking account and relationship with ABIM's team, diaspora banking team, right? Joint mortgage, not yet, but it's something that is on the work. I'm pushing for that. If couple here locally in Nigeria, we can do joint mortgage. The second slide on frequently asked questions, please. So yeah, we're working with reputable developers, as I mentioned earlier on. Number one, in there is the Lagos State Development Property Corporation, who have properties, stages of construction going on across Lagos. Very reputable. Some of us here will know LSDPC. Very, very reputable. And there's Lagos State. So if they give you title, you're very rest assured it's okay. I'm also talking to UPDC, and I'm talking to quite some very reputable and unknown developers in the market. Not really concentrated in Lagos, but Lagos is currently the epicenter. So Abuja is there. I'm also trying to get a couple of in Ibadan, Enugu, Port Harcourt, and a key select capital of states in Nigeria. And yeah, definitely, I've answered that. We can also finance properties across other cities in Nigeria. And but we won't finance your building loan. It's not a building loan for you to complete ongoing projects. That's mean you have ongoing projects in Nigeria. The question around fraud was very, I think 79% of, from the analysis, the pre-event analysis Dr. Fabi shared, 79% of the registrants that registered for this webinar then, as on Sunday he shared it, were quite very afraid of fraud and all that. Those things exist, those risks exist. We won't shy away from that. And again, I keep saying that FirstBank is reputable, so we won't deal with shady people. And then my colleague Usamaka will take a lot of questions when it comes around property securitization and documentation. Of course, so our legal services work with partner lawyers who does the search and any other activity or ad hoc assignment they might assign to them. And we won't supervise or manage construction, right? And we won't, this scheme is not for commercial property. It's purely for residential, right? Abim, the next, I think that should be the last one. Yes, definitely. You can purchase, if you have your own property, you've been made an offer by a developer in Nigeria that you know very well. Our own duty is to conduct search, due diligence on the property before we commence the transactions and get it properly valued, right? So two things: the open market value is based on the valuation report, the estimated EFSV, the estimated for-sale value is also in that report, but the bank will work with it, estimated for-sale value, EFSV. Now, how much can I borrow now depends on the underwriting, right, decision. So the risk team will take in the application and do a very thorough review based on certain things I've mentioned: citizenship, employment, income, credit check, and every other thing that will apply. So that will not determine, but the scheme itself is capped at 100 million naira. So the expectation is that you will come in with your own equity and probably put in more fund, right? If the property you're going for is quite expensive, right? So you don't have to make up for the rest, but we cannot disburse more than 100 million from this particular scheme, MREIF. But we have our own home loan, right? As a bank, we have our own mortgage program as a bank, right? Which is different from the MREIF scheme. So we're subscribed to the federal government scheme. But as a bank, we have our mortgage. So that could be another discussion in case you now want to access. But the push we're making for diaspora is to tie this to the MREIF scheme, which is quite more relatable in terms of pricing, right? Which is quite more relatable in terms of pricing, single digits. Ours is off the roof, because again, I know the audience are also people who have access to mortgage in abroad. So it's not for pricing here in Nigeria in terms of mortgage, we deal with the cost of fund and a whole lot of macro indicators. And I've also shown a slide about the tenor and pricing. So we've also simplified it, right, to say if you are interested, you can just begin to indicate interest. It takes purely 2 minutes to fill the form. Then an advisor, a mortgage advisor, will be assigned to you to take you through the work. ABIM have very capable relationship managers in diaspora banking, and we're also quite vast in terms of experience. My team are here. Apart from me, I also have my team down in the background taking cognizance, taking notes. So we'll now talk you through the process and then probably begin to guide you through your dream of owning your own home. Some people must hear, I actually know already have hopes, but nothing stops you from also keying in and getting another one from the scheme. So thank you. So that brings an end my own session. I'll be handing over to Biju, Rachel, who will introduce the next presenter from MOFI, Mr. Sani Yakubu. Thank you.
Just one quick second before Rachel comes on. Thanks, Chukwuka, for very preemptively addressing many of the questions that had been proposed. And as we indicated earlier, if your question still hasn't been answered, I think Chukwuka did a great job of addressing a lot of the questions. In fact, all the questions that we had sent over to them ahead of today's conversation. So again, if the questions haven't been answered, we'll have an opportunity on the back end to address that. Chukwuka, both you and Abim mentioned a few registration things. So for those who just want to go ahead and begin engaging with the bank, can you have your teams just drop any information in the chat if there are links or web links or QR codes that you want to start sharing with people now? Just have the folks from your team just start sharing that right away. Although we will, once the meeting is done early next week, also send out an update to everybody with a transcript of the meeting. We're recording it. A number of you have asked if we can share it. So we'll share that with you. And, the FirstBank folks should also have an opportunity then for us to send links to any of your sites to the folks who are here. Rachel, over to you. Thanks, Chukwuka.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Fabi.
Dr. Fabi. Thank you. Without further ado, I'd like to bring on our next speaker. This is Mr. Sonny Yakubu. He's the National Coordinator for MOFI Real Estate Investment Fund, the reason we're all here. He has over 30 years experience in this industry and oversees MREIF at the Ministry of Finance Incorporated across commercial banking, investment strategy, real estate, and policy advisory. Mr. Yakubu comes to us with an MBA from Ahmadu Bello University, PGD in banking and finance, and a first degree in accountancy. Mr. Yakubu, please let me know if you can see and hear us, and if you'd like to turn on your camera and your audio. I'd like to get you started as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. I believe my camera is up. And
yes,
please
you are.
do
You're very
confirm
clear.
that you can hear me.
We
All
can
right,
indeed. Pleasure to have you with us. If I may ask that Abim shares the screen from Mr. Yakubu's slides, please.
Not sure I have his.
Okay, was he, I
Let me
mean,
check.
it
Hold
doesn't
on.
have to have slides. I don't know if he was just going to talk through them.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Hold on 1 sec. I've seen it now.
I believe Abim has the
Yes.
bunch of slides.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, it's there.
Let me know.
Okay, so while she's trying to get the slides up, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. For us in MOFI, this is a fantastic opportunity to talk to Nigerians living outside of Nigeria. I see that we have about 127 of us. For me, this once again is a great opportunity to convey what is a very important message. I think that a good place to start is to explain what MOFI is. What is MOFI? MOFI is the Ministry of Finance Incorporated. This is the investment arm of the federal government of Nigeria. It is backed by the MOFI Act of 1959. This will surprise you a bit. It means that an active and aggressive investment managing MOFI should have been in existence for a good number of decades. But like a few aspects of our country that have experienced challenges, we have sometimes started late. So the MOFI that you have today was set up in the shape and form it is today just about 4 years back. Before this time, MOFI did not exist as an active investment management entity, but it did have the legal rights to own investment grade property on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. And this is very important to understand. What this means is that MOFI has not just responsibility in terms of ownership, but also responsibility to provide information on the existence and on the size of federal government investments. Indeed, the ability to be able to measure and account for is very important. One of the first areas that MOFI is intervening in to help the economy grow is the housing estate. All over Africa, there are challenges with housing and with home ownership. Statistics will have us believe that Africa as a whole has a shortfall of about 50 million houses. In Nigeria, of that 50 million that is spread across Africa, 20 plus million is in Nigeria. That slide, Abim, can we keep that slide up? Okay, so if we went back to that slide, the second row of it the second row of it, not only showed Nigeria has a 20+ million shortfall, that we would require somewhere around 700,000 housing units to be built yearly if we will meet up with our housing requirements, over a decade plus, assuming the population is not growing, just to measure the size of the problem. Now, I don't want to dwell on the challenges. I just like to say that MOFI then worked out what could be a structure that will help Nigerians find housing and that will help the market, the supply side of the market, deliver housing. And the reason the perspective is very important is that this situation creates a challenge on both the supply and on the demand side. What this means is that we have a challenge with how many homes are available for Nigerians to buy, and there aren't enough of these homes. And Nigerians who want to buy homes have a challenge with how much money they have to be able to buy homes. So the MOFI Real Estate Investment Fund was created by MOFI, supported by the federal government of Nigeria, to achieve three things. The first of them is mortgages that are accessible, that are affordable, at interest rates that are easily affordable by Nigerians. And what has been achieved so far is a 9.75% interest rate. A very critical point, and I think that somehow between us and FirstBank, we need to explain this, is that the deposit required is just 10%. Now, the 40% that I saw on the slide could refer maybe to home loan schemes of FirstBank. But for the MOFI Real Estate Investment Fund, the interest rate is 9.75%. The minimum deposit required is 10%. Again, a very important point. The tenor for the loans is 20 years, 20. So between March and April of last year and today, we've done about 2,050 mortgages for Nigerians. That's 2,050 homes purchased by Nigerians. I believe that Mr. Olubi's slides will contain evidence of players in the market. Now, I'll quickly move to the structure. I think you should move on with the slides. I've probably long passed these numbers. Yes. So the structure of the fund is also important to understand, even though I won't bother you with the deep details. What we have done is to register a 1 trillion naira program with the Securities Exchange Commission. So the Securities Exchange Commission of Nigeria is directly supervising, monitoring everything that the MOFI Real Estate Investment Fund is doing. Of this 1 trillion program, we're operating in tranches of 250 billion. We are on our first tranche. In the first tranche, we raised 250 billion from the government and the market. So this is a very good example of a public and private sector partnership that has successfully played out. So the government has put in 150 billion as a concessionary fund at an extremely very low interest. The market has put in 100 billion at market-facing rates. It is the average of this that allows us to do a 9.75% interest for the end user. And so we did two tranches. One is 150 billion. The government subscribed to all of that. 100 billion. The banks, insurance companies, and other financial institutions subscribed to this. What else is it that is checking the governance of this structure and ensuring that there's clarity, that there's accountability? Our fund has a AAA rating from the leading local rating agency, Augusto & Co. AAA. It has a AA rating from the most active international rating agency in Nigeria, GCR. By the way, Augusto & Co. has just been acquired by an international rating agency. And the reason we didn't get a AAA from GCR is because the national economy has a rating that will not allow a single project coming out of the economy to have a AAA rating. A second very important aspect of the structure is that it is managed by a private sector proven fund management agent, ARM. And what this means then is that while the government is driving the initial efforts, the private sector is in it, both in terms of investment, the private sector is in it, in terms of actually driving the machinery. What does this do? This ensures that we can grow this fund even without the funding coming from government. So we can work with DFIs, we can work with Nigeria's private sector to continue to grow the fund. Who are the other players that worked with us on this? Yes, we're MOFI, yes, we're government, but I tell you that this concept was developed working with about 10 different hard-working Nigerian financial institutions. Vertiva, and many of you would know Vertiva, was our financial advisor. DR Fatimile & Co. were our technical advisors. STL trustees were our trustees and are still trustees to the fund. There's 7 other top-class players. The way the fund is structured was also done in such a way that it would not cause a dislocation in the system. I'll ask a very important question just to make the point. Have we come in to dislodge the other institutions that have been providing mortgages in the Nigerian market or providing supply in the housing value chain? No. Our mortgages are provided by supporting financial institutions who are licensed by the Central Bank of Nigeria to deliver mortgages. For example, FirstBank. So we're providing funding to FirstBank on agreed terms and conditions to reach Nigerians home and abroad on those terms and conditions. 9.75% interest rate.
Looks like we lost Mr. Sani.
Yes, Dr. Fabi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Is he still in the meeting, or did he drop off? Did we lose him?
No, he's
completely?
dropped off. So what I'll do, if we just confirm that, I'm just going to check. Okay, Mr. Adekunbi is in the room, so I will be bringing him in. I would like to introduce Mr. Olubiyi Adekunbi. He is the head of real estate investment ARM, ARM investment managers. He's got over a decade of experience in this field. He manages the MREIF at ARM, spanning real estate investment, portfolio management, investment strategy, and capital markets. Again, another very qualified, very educated individual to add to this quiver of arrows that we've got at the moment. He has a first degree in estate management from the University of Lagos and a master's in risk management also from the University of Lagos. I will just check if he can see and hear me. If you can, please turn on your camera and your video.
Yes, I can hear you, Rachel, and my video is on. Yes.
Perfect.
Before we go on,
yeah.
Sorry, just one quick second. In the meantime, can the team please liaise with Mr. Sani so that once we're done with the ARM session, he can potentially come back and perhaps finish his session just as we go into the Q&As. I think there are already quite a few Q&A questions.
I'm doing that already. Dr. Fabi. Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also,
okay.
If I could add one last thing. Sorry, I'm so sorry, Mr. Adekunbi. If the team at FirstBank are able to tackle any of the simpler questions in the chat, I think that would really help us from having to answer every single question in the Q&A session, because I think this will be a there's a lot of questions and it'll be a very, very busy time. So if I could please ask Abim to send the slides over to Mr. Adekunbi's section even. And Mr. Adekunbi, the floor is all yours.
All right, thank you very much, and good day to everyone, depending on where you are. So I think what I can do is continue from where Mr. Sani stopped. Okay, I think he's back now.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah, he's back.
All right. So let's just go back to Mr. Sani so he can finish his session. Sorry for that break in transmission, but is that okay for us to just finish off with Mr. Sani?
Absolutely, that's fine.
Okay. All right, Mr. Sani, please, the floor is yours. Hopefully you can still see the screen. Mr. Sani? Can you confirm that you can hear us and that you can speak?
He's not going to be able to unmute himself. Bear with me, because he's gone out of the room. I'm just going to give him back. Okay. Yeah, he should be able to do that now.
All right, thank you very much. So sorry about that. I'll just pick up. I'll just pick up where I was. 1 second. So I was talking about the structure of the fund and how it doesn't cause any dislocation within the value chain of housing delivery within the country. So it doesn't, for instance, remove the business that other players were carrying on or become a competition to them. Rather, the fund injects capital, it injects transparency, it injects clarity to this sector. The second aspect that I would like to talk about, is what the fund provides to suppliers of units. Because there's such a shortfall of houses available for Nigerians to buy, it's extremely important to support suppliers so that they can deal with what is the biggest challenge. And the biggest challenge that every developer faces is the ability to find funding at affordable rates and find funding that is easily accessed. They need to prove one point to the owner of the fund. So, for example, when they come to FirstBank and they want funding to do 200 houses, 300 houses, 400 houses, FirstBank would want to know who is going to buy those houses. So on day one, when they prepare to make that tough pitch to FirstBank, we give them an offtake guarantee. That offtake guarantee says that if FirstBank gives them funding and they work with FirstBank to deliver those homes, once the homes are at 75% completion, we would ensure that all Nigerians with the capacity to offtake those houses get mortgages to pay for the houses. That way, the developer is able to complete that round and start to deliver a new set of houses. So the offtake guarantee is a very important component that I believe Mr. Olubi will be speaking to. Another challenge within the value chain that we try is the opaqueness of the market. If you're in Lagos and you would like to purchase a house in Abuja, how do you know what your options are? You are in Maiduguri, you want to buy a house in Lagos, Port Harcourt, or anywhere. How do you know what the options are, what the prices are, what type of buildings? So we have an interactive website that is working, and we've done that working with a technology provider called Q Shelter. MREIF.com.ng, MREIF.com.ng, MREIF.com.ng is a site you can check while I'm speaking. Please don't check it after. Check while we're speaking. You would see somewhere between 500 to 6,000 homes. Somewhere between 500 to 6,000 homes across Nigeria. And this site, please keep the slides, on the next. Go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. I'll finish my trend of thought, so the next slide, just the next slide. Thank you. Just keep it there while I finish this last trend of thought. So I was saying that that site will give you somewhere between 5,000 to 6,000 homes across Nigeria. And it will ask you a couple of questions. How much do you earn? What house did you choose? And it has a mortgage calculator that can do some straight line calculations and give an idea of whether you qualify or not. And this site is capable of taking on your documentation and moving it to one of the financial institutions. There are 22 of them at the moment. 11 of them are commercial banks, FirstBank included, and 11 are mortgage banks. So this then allows Nigerians in different parts of the country to have visibility, on what is available in the market. This particular slide is talking about what we've achieved in the last year plus. I don't want to beat my chest, but I want to say to you that there's never been a time in Nigeria when a project on providing mortgages to Nigerians has, in a year plus, done 2,000 houses. Of the 250 billion that we have from government, we've spent about 131 billion creating mortgages. Of that 250 billion, we've also reserved 25% in cash or near liquid assets to support the offtake guarantees, that we're providing. So the difference between our offtake guarantees and those that have been typically provided in the market in the past and even presently is that they're actually cash backed. We have cash in the bank to back the guarantees that we give you. So any financial institution in Nigeria that comes across our guarantee knows that there's money in the bank to support it. This slide just shows a couple of the positions and achievements of the fund. In less than 18 months, all of this has been put in place. Now, internally, the fund has a board and investment committees. Let me be more specific. It also has an advisory committee to ensure that there is good governance and to ensure that the credits that are done, are really up to standard. Can we take on the last slide, I believe? The last slide. So I just want to see if there are a few things I've forgotten. Abim? Thank you. So for me, what we've tried to do is to open a new chapter in providing mortgages. I believe that lots of the questions have been answered, by this overview, but the details will come in Mr. Olubi's presentation. They manage the fund on a day-to-day basis, and they work with the banks to deliver to Nigerians. Now, where are we headed? We registered a 1 trillion naira program, and we're just on the first tranche. We are working on the second tranche as I speak to you. And the second tranche is a non-interest based conscientious type of fund. You may be aware that all the Sukuk instruments raised in the Nigerian market have been oversubscribed by at least 300%. In some instances, by 1,000%. So we hope that this second tranche will also be done this year and very soon. And we continue to raise this. We're talking with the IFC, with the World Bank, with the Islamic Development Bank, with AFDB, with a view to bringing them on board in a structure that has displayed transparency, displayed capacity, displayed an ability to drive results very quickly. I don't want to bother you with the rest of all of this, but please do try and check the half-year performance of the fund. It will show you that the net asset value is growing, the viability is very good, and that we want to do ever more mortgages. I want to leave with a quotation by the Minister of Finance. He promised me he would look for a way to grow our fund to a good couple of trillions. But does the MREIF solve all problems? We're just starting. Like many other challenges in the Nigerian society, the Nigerian economy, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And we're working on resolving. We're listening as you're speaking. We're making changes. We're making amendments, working with institutions, working with Nigerians to make it ever better. Thank you very much, Mr. Malcolm.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Rachel, over to you. I think ARM and Mr. Dekumbi.
Absolutely. I think we've already done the introduction, so I'm happy for Mr. Adekunbi to join us and give us his portion of the session.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel. So yeah, I mean, to a large extent, I believe as much information as required on the fund has been covered by Mr. Yakubu. But I'll just, touch on a couple more things that maybe elaborate more, and then a few things that haven't been mentioned. As Mr. Yakubu said, I know a lot of people would want to know the level of sustainability that has been built into the fund, to especially saying that there's government involvement. I believe he's been able to touch on the fact that, as much as government is the sponsor of the fund, there's a lot of private sector involvement built into it to ensure that it continues to run, unlike other schemes in the past where, it's government sponsored and government run. And that's one of the reasons why you have ARM in the mix as fund manager. ARM's role is primarily to drive the strategy and operations of the fund, ensuring that it's fully implemented. The trustee is in place to ensure that the interest of the investors are adequately protected. Investors including the federal government and the commercial investors, including pension funds, commercial banks, and the rest. And then the custodian, so the trustees, STL trustees, the custodian, First Nominees, the subsidiary of FirstBank, holds the cash. So the fund, as much as ARM oversees the administration of the funds, the funds don't sit with ARM, they sit with First Nominees, ensuring that the funds are only disbursed specifically for the purpose of the investments that the fund has been authorized to carry out, which is the creation of mortgages and supporting developers with off-take guarantees. And then there's the investment committee and then the advisory board. So the layers of protection that has been put in place to ensure that the fund is adequately protected and it is used for the purpose that it has been designed for, is as, at the highest level that it can reasonably be. In terms of performance so far, the fund started operations in March 2025. And of the 250 billion that has been raised, we've been able to successfully deploy over 140 billion for over 2,000 beneficiaries. I mean, at that run rate, we've been doing averagely 10 billion naira in mortgages, month on month, or slightly less than that. But, that number is quite impressive given where we are coming from. In the past where the disbursement of mortgages has been very slow, right? So that means an average of 150 or thereabout people are getting new homes every month, and we intend to sustain that momentum. Of those beneficiaries, of course, it includes, those beneficiaries are split between, different categories of people, and we ensure that there's as much inclusivity as possible, between male and female beneficiaries, well split. We have people in Nigeria and people in the diaspora are also benefiting. So, and that's one of the reasons why this webinar is being held, to ensure that, those of you who are out there who have heard about the scheme but asking questions whether it's open to you. Yes, people in the diaspora are permitted to access the funds to purchase properties in Nigeria, and people in diaspora have been accessing it. It's happening. We have quite a significant number of diaspora applicants who have successfully accessed it, and it can be done as well. And then on the off-take guarantees, essentially, just to give a background into that, right? The off-take guarantees framework was put in place to support developers in delivering housing units, because before the mortgages can be delivered, it needs to be delivered on existing housing units. And the way developers in the country currently operate, most of them rely on off-plan sales. So they rely on people paying for the housing units in bits, and then if in instances where they get stuck, maybe the home buyers don't get to pay as at when due, or they don't sell as sufficient units, the development will drag. And at the end of the day, they are unable to deliver those housing units. And there's usually a battle between the home buyers and the developers. The guarantee was put in place to support the developers in accessing funding from construction lenders, from banks like FirstBank. Typically, when a bank wants to fund a project like that, one of the major risks they face is market risk. Are people going to buy? And of course, most times people want to buy because the project is ongoing. So MREIF gives the guarantee saying that if FirstBank is able to fund a developer, we will buy, MREIF will offtake some of those units when those units are complete, to enable to mitigate and reduce the offtake risk that the banks would have been exposed to, of course, subject to MREIF's due diligence and making sure that everything on that project is in place. What that does for the bank is they can now comfortably lend to the developer. The developer has funding up front to build those housing units. And where they don't sell sufficient units to be able to pay off the bank, MREIF can step in to buy up those units so that the bank can be paid off, and the developer can sell comfortably without much pressure of interest rolling up on the funding for that project. So that sort of supports the development of housing units, creating the stock for home buyers to be able to buy more units. And so far, we've been able to support up to 6 developers for over 1,000 housing units within that scheme. So beyond the mortgages that have been issued directly, the offtake guarantee product has also supported the delivery of additional 1,000 units across the country already. And if we sustain this momentum, of course, that number will continue to increase. And of course, once those projects are also completed, MREIF will be issuing mortgages on those properties so that it creates liquidity. The developers can move on to additional projects, and that cycle continues. So the impact is already being felt. As Mr. Yakubu also mentioned, the returns are also being delivered to investors. So MREIF is doing what it is that it can do, and we look forward to additional questions and seeing more people in the diaspora participate in the MREIF scheme. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adekunbi. This is a fantastic roundup of the session. Really, really insightful. Dr. Fabi, would you like to take over and maybe see if we can facilitate a quick question and answer? I am aware that we've overrun, but there's so many interesting questions in the chat. For those who can access it, I've noticed that Abim Meshinoye, who was our very first speaker and introduced us to FirstBank's legacy and what they bring to the table, she has been placing an account opening and an introductory PowerPoint presentation in the chat. Please go there and download that document. That should answer a lot of your questions. Now I'm just going to hand over to Dr. Fabi if you want to bring all of the speakers onto the screen and see if we can answer a few questions before we round up.
Absolutely, that's fine. So please bring the speakers back on. I think this has been a fascinating session. Thanks to everybody who has stayed on. We were supposed to close about 8 minutes ago. And I think one of the great things that happened across all of the different panelists is that they were also proactively engaging in some of the questions that you had. But as Rachel indicated, we do have some questions here. So what I'll just do is we'll pick a few that we will maybe throw on to the speakers to address. And if you can just hang in there with us, we'll probably do this for the next 10 to 15 minutes and hopefully close just before the 2-hour mark. So if that's okay, we'll just proceed. The first question I'll tackle is a pretty simple one, and it's just a question around tenure. So there was a question that suggested there's an age limit. Can anybody either from the bank or from MOFI or ARM just confirm whether there is indeed an age limit? Somebody here was saying there's a 60-year-old max limit. I'm not sure where that came from. Hopefully this is a very quick response. Can anybody let us know whether there's an age limit to those who can participate?
Mr. Olubi can shed light on that.
Okay.
Yes, so the maximum tenure for the mortgages is subject to retirement age. So averagely, yes, 60 is what is obtainable in most instances, but there are also instances where the retirement age is higher. Specific professions like judges and the lecturers, they have a higher age limit. Some institutions also have a higher age limit, permissible for their staff to retire. So the mortgages are benchmarked to the retirement age of the applicants.
So here's one thing we can tell you right away is that for diasporans to participate, you probably would need to take a look at that requirement, because a lot of the people who are thinking about this are people in diaspora who are thinking about perhaps investment homes or retirement homes in Nigeria. They are beyond the 60-year limit, but they have in fact, they would have all of the requirements that you would need in terms of credit rating, credit limits, the background, the required down payment requirements. And so one of the suggestions we would make to you is that for a diaspora audience, some of those retirement age requirements that apply to those who are in Nigeria, we might need to take a look at that. I don't know whether the statutory laws that establish MOFI allow you to shift on those, but that certainly would be an area that we think would be important for you to take a look at. The other one is also a very quick question, and this was a question.
Sorry,
yes,
Malcolm, I can give a straightforward answer to that.
Okay. Yes.
There's no regulation or rule per se. This is a credit question. So if your employers can confirm that your retirement age is 70 and you're applying at the age of 60, it means you still have 10 years to go. And this application can be considered. Thank you.
The other thing I would ask is, for many of those in diaspora that are thinking about this, they're probably past retirement here, right? There's a big chunk of people who they have the funds, they can do the down payments, and they are thinking of maybe this engaging in this particular facility as part of a retirement plan. Now, for them, there's no employer per se. I would guess that, I've not taken the numbers, but I would not be surprised if 10 to 15% of those on this call are actually self-employed. So, so for people who are self-employed, who have their own businesses, who run their own businesses, and there's no employer per se that is guaranteeing anything and telling you about a retirement age, how do you handle those types of people and their interest in participating in a scheme like this?
Okay, if I can comment there.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So
There's
there's an underwriting standard for mortgages under CBN's purview for the origination of mortgages in Nigeria, and that is what specifies the maximum age limits, the maximum tenure for mortgages at retirement age, right? So any changes to that will be subject to regulatory engagement. However, for self-employed individuals, I think one thing we haven't mentioned is that the way MREIF is structured, right? Outside the MREIF framework, that's the parameters has been set by MREIF, and the underwriting standards in the NMRC uniform underwriting standards, which governs mortgages. Most other parameters sit within the risk acceptance criteria of the bank. So different banks have different requirements that they put in place for the maximum tenure for self-employed individuals. Some adopt a maximum of 7 years, regardless of what their age is. So I would say that for self-employed individuals, the assessments and what will be permissible will be within FirstBank's remits.
So the banks, the individual.
Okay. Let me just add what I think is. Sorry, Malcolm. I just like to add what I think is a very important point.
You have the floor, Sam.
For every exposure that any financial institution would do, a vital requirement is an assurance of repayment. If you are a private sector person, you run your own business, or you are involved in some form of employment in which the income doesn't come from any employer per se, the important question to your bank would be, how do you guarantee them that you would ensure that your repayment would be consistent? I think this is a question that all of our brothers and sisters in diaspora need to have at the back of their minds. Can your bankers, for example, give FirstBank a guarantee that your payment would be consistent? Now, I will take the risk of answering on behalf of FirstBank and say that if a well-rated bank in the US or Europe were to give a guarantee on behalf of a Nigerian medical doctor, for instance, to say that if he took a loan, he would be consistent in his payments, I believe FirstBank is highly likely to look at this favorably.
Thank you. So thanks for those responses. And I think what they indicate would be some of the allowances that would need to come into play as we think about the diaspora. You're absolutely right, Sani. The reality is that many of those folks are able to get mortgages here, they're able to get loans, they're able to service those loans. But the key thing is for the bank that is based in Nigeria, how do we then get the guarantees that the monies they're making available would be paid off? So some interlink between the financial institutions in Nigeria driving the MREIF program, as well as those of us in the diaspora who want to participate, and some of the differences in the situations that we have. The next one is very quick too, I hope. So the next question was just somebody asking about Mr. Sani and the 10 years that FirstBank mentioned, the 10% deposits that you mentioned, and the 40% that FirstBank mentioned. And I think Tukuk had begun addressing that initially. We'll just throw it open. Does somebody want to just quickly address that? I know all of you have touched on it at different levels, but somebody should just put that issue to bed.
Okay, I'll take that.
Okay.
So the tenure discrepancy.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then the rates discrepancy. Yes.
Okay, so as I mentioned when I was presenting, I'd say that MREIF is a scheme, and Dr. Sani was very right to say 22 banks are currently subscribed. But again, certain parameters are subject to the bank's internal risk appetite and appraisal. Standard is 10%, right? The 9.75 rates in terms of interest rate, up to 20%. Now, but internally in FirstBank, we will now appraise you as a person, given all risk rating around your application, probably the age, as Colonia has said earlier on, and then book your scheme for a particular. So today we have booked a couple of them, not at 20%, some at 10, not at 20 years, some at 10 years, some at 8 years, depending on your age to retirement. Yes, or standard 10%, and then 20 years tenure for the scheme, right? So I'm also currently, in fact, as this meeting was going on, I had a quick call with the risk guys who are still working on the paper for diaspora lending. So the risk is proposing a certain contribution, equity contribution, and a certain age. So it's still subject to specific request review, really, internally. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So
sorry,
if I may
Malcolm, can I come in?
Yes.
Yes, please. The floor is yours.
All right. So the MOFI Real Estate Investment Fund says that the financial institutions that work with us must not charge above 9.75% interest rates. There could be other charges that, for instance, come from the state government over the land on which the property is based, etc., etc. So the rate is 9.75%. That's the interest rate. The minimum deposit required is 10%. I understand that there could be certain subjective views depending on the risk perception of the specific applicant. But the way the program is structured requires only 10%. If you fulfill all the conditions, then you need to give just 10%. But if the bank deems that there are other risk elements related to your particular application, that is then a different case. You could apply for up to 20 years in terms of the tenor. So I think that Chikuka, I think, talked to this in terms of the rates and the tenor. So, and then the tenor, again, while the max is 20 years, can also become subject to terms and conditions that relate to you as an individual. Are you 15 years to retirement? Are you 10 years to retirement? Or does your source of income have a risk attached to it that makes it difficult for the 20-year tenor to be held for you? All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Those are very helpful clarifications. And so what it sounds like is, from MOFI's perspective, the one thing that is sacrosanct is the rate cannot be more than 9.75%. But things like tenor can vary from 10, maybe even more aggressive than that, but it's 20 years from your program, but it is at the discretion of the lender, the particular institution you're now working with, based on an individual basis, to determine whether they want to vary that tenure. Top end is 20 years. They can make it less if they believe there's more risk involved. And then the other one is the down payment. Your minimum down payment is 10%. But as we've seen in the case of FirstBank, on a case-by-case basis, they might determine that they want as much as 40% for their own particular risk profile that they want to adopt in the program. Would that be accurate? The rate doesn't vary, but the tenor and then the equity investment can vary based on circumstances.
Yes, that's accurate, Dr. Fabi.
That is very accurate. That is very accurate.
Somebody had a question that, what if they wanted to pay up before the end of the loan term? Are there any penalties associated with that? They get a 10-year loan, they want to pay it off in 5 years because they just want to own it outright within that 5-year time frame. Are there any penalties? Is that okay?
No, there are no.
If you please.
No, there are no penalties for prepayment. So if an applicant intends to pay down the principal portion of either in parts or in full before the maturity of the loan, there will be no penalty for that.
Thank you. There's a question here about the credits. So there was a reference to credit rating, credit scores. So is it to be understood that, as you're assessing people from the diaspora, their credit scores here, their account details here are things that will be assessed? And then going back to the question of risk, there are also quite a few people here that already have mortgages that have significant equity embedded inside of those mortgages. Is there anything in terms of how you assess the risk of individuals that also factors in their asset base here, beyond just the salary, the asset base that they have, the properties that they already have, and the extent of inbuilt equity that that property might have? Does anybody want to tackle that?
Mr. Alubi,
that'll be more for FirstBank. Yeah, that will be a question for, that's something that falls within the bank's risk assessment. So yeah, to depend on what. Yeah.
So yeah, Dr. Fabi, so if I get you right, you're asking, so the question is, if as an individual you have other asset holdings, right, aside from your earnings, your salaries, could that be a factor in terms of underwriting appraisal for your
That's correct.
request?
Yes.
Exactly, right? So I had mentioned earlier on that specifically for this lending, there are heightened risk. Let's just not. I battled with my underwriters. It's risk to structure this, and we're still battling. Really, that's the few minutes call I took away from this webinar. So one is the underlayings are one employment, verification, citizenship status, credit risk, credit history check, and then income, because we are going to base our lending strictly on realizable cash flow, consistent cash flow, which is the employment. Now that's why I said we're looking at profiling the kind of people and personalities we're going to be dealing with. Now, if there are other assets, recognizable assets and investments, right? The question is, those assets are held offshore, not in Nigeria, right? So how do we bring it into the Nigerian appraisal scenario? So those are clear underwriting decisions, which I might not be able to fulfill here. I'm the product manager, but definitely, if need be, why not? But the questions are always, so how do we know those assets? How do we recognize who verifies those assets? Because employment is verifiable, cash flow in terms of will tell you, okay, we know how much you earn by your pay slip, your bank statement, and all that. But how do we consolidate those assets, right? And verify them and then recognize them as a denominator in the underwriting process. So those are the very critical risk questions I want to be able to exhaust here. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Please, anybody that has questions, please just put them in the chat. We want to close within the next few minutes. But Uzoamaka, is there anything? Uzoamaka is part of the legal team. She has great insights into from a legal and compliance perspective a lot of the issues that we're dealing with today. So Uzoamaka, is there anything you've heard so far, both in the discussions that have been had, the questions that have been raised, that you just want to address that maybe all of these conversations we've had so far have not tackled yet? If Uzoamaka is still with us, is there anything you want to address? Okay. So one more question.
Sorry, Mr. Malcolm.
Yes.
Mr.
Hello.
Malcolm.
Hello, Mr. Malcolm. Good evening. Good evening. I'm here. Sorry, I've been trying to unmute. That's why it looked like I was not around. Thank you so much. The discussions so far, they have been so insightful, and they've addressed most of the issues we're looking at. But from the legal perspective, I just want to bring the assurance to our perspective that we heard them when they were talking about the issues of fraud and security of their investment in the country and all that. I just want to assure them that from the legal services department, we take due diligence very, very serious. And then we have due diligence that we put in place to ensure that titles are good titles. We go to land registries and verify these titles to ensure that who say that they are the owners of these properties are really the owners. We do charting to ensure that the location of the properties are ascertainable and that they are not under acquisition. We also do verification because there was a time, and even up to this moment, we still have issues of clone documents, which will look exactly like the original. And when you present it, and somebody will rely on it and advanced facility, only at the time of enforcement, you find out that the twin and the twin brother is what is at the registry, and what you're having is the clone copy and not the original. So we take steps to do that. By the time we finish doing this, and where it is estate developer that you're buying from, we also verify the ownership of the estate company and then ensure that you're dealing with the right type of people, the people that you're meant to deal with. So by the time we finish doing this, you're protected. And then there's this law in Nigeria, which is the principal law, the Land Use Act, that provides that all properties, before you transfer title in land in Nigeria, you must have governor's consent so that nobody comes tomorrow to challenge your ownership of that land. So when in the course of documentation, we make sure that we get documents from you that is required by the various land registries that you'll be purchasing the state you'll be purchasing your land from, and we first of all perfect your own title, that is the deed of assignment that you're having, or the deed of sublease, depending on the title of the your predecessor, the title owner. Then we ensure that they are registered before the bank's mortgage is registered. Registration at the registries, obtaining the governor's consent and registering them, making them enter the record of the registry is like notice to the general public that this property at this point belongs to Mr. So and so. So if there's going to be any fraudulent dealing on those properties, once they move to the registry to make those inquiries, they are able to ascertain the true ownership. So yes, at FirstBank, we take the protection, security of the investment of our customers very seriously. This is a bank that has been around for 432 years, minimal scandal, no fraudulent dealings, mortgages secured and enforced at the appropriate time. And then we've been helping customers own properties in Nigeria. And now we're extending it to the diaspora. Thank you. If there are specific questions around the registration, you can drop them and we'll provide answers to them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Amaka. That was very helpful. And thank you for just highlighting and summarizing some of those key issues that are related to title, to land, and how that fits into the program. We want to thank everybody for staying with us. We apologize for going 30 minutes over time, but it just tells you how interesting this conversation was. Sorry, go ahead.
Do we have a minute? Just 1 minute.
Oh yeah, please go ahead, please, Mr. Sani, you have the floor.
Okay, so there's a question that has been coming up very repeatedly about people who are aging or who are advanced in years and who have money in the bank abroad and would still like to do these mortgages. So for us, this is a learning area, and we would work with FirstBank to see how the financial institutions in those countries can provide comfort to FirstBank. I think it's very important because the average age for mortgages that we've done so far is somewhere between 42 and 43. This means that there's a window of just about 20 or 30 years. And these are usually the bright lights of people in terms of their career. So if someone is 60 or is 65 and he saved up lots of money in the bank, but he still wants to buy a house for himself or for someone back at home, we have to find a way of making this work, and we will, working with FirstBank.
So absolutely. And in fact, Mr. Sani, just building on that, I'm glad you raised that. There are going to be certain things we would strongly recommend that you take a look at that vary with regards to those of us in the diaspora. We know that the program, it sounds from what we've heard so far, that a lot of how the program was structured, the repayment schemes, who is qualified and things like that, are based, and it makes sense that they should be, on how employment works in Nigeria, retirement ages, and these types of assumptions. However, remember that a lot of the people in diaspora for whom this is interesting are thinking about this scheme from two perspectives. One could be investment, the other is retirement. And to your point, who are those thinking about retirement? They're those who are retired here and are thinking of taking all of the accumulated years of assets that they've built and to find alternatives, build homes in Nigeria that, maybe they retire to completely or that they use as a second home. So those are also options that are on the table. Again, some thinking about it for investment purposes, some thinking about it as primary residencies for themselves. And so what we would commit to doing with you is working with you to provide you with diaspora perspectives that hopefully would help to enrich the program. And, as you can see, we have run out of time. There are way more questions that are even still being asked now than we've had the opportunity to tackle. So I hope we have your commitment, Mr. Yakubu, that if we needed to come back to you and Mr. Adekunbi again to bring you back to provide some more insights and to tackle some additional questions, hopefully that is something you'll be open to doing with us as we continue to make the platform available to you to share this program with Nigerians across the diaspora.
Sure, Mr. Malcolm, sure.
Fantastic. So I think at this juncture, we would have to stop. It's been a fascinating conversation. We're very thankful to the FirstBank team, to Chukwuka, to Abim, to Uzoamaka, to Aga, and the rest of the team from FirstBank. We're grateful to you, Mr. Sani Yakubu. We have the privilege of having you, an architect of the program here. Mr. B. Adekunbi, you provided fantastic insights on the private sector portion of this. And to all those who took the time to register and to attend, we're grateful for your participation. We know that you've not, maybe there are additional questions that need to be answered. Our commitment to you was just place all the questions in. Those questions that we didn't get to today, we will try to get the answers from the appropriate parties. We will make the transcripts of today's event as well as the video available to all those who registered. For those who, if you want to follow up with any of the organizers, you're more than, we're open to you. Please reach out with any questions that you have or any suggestions or recommendations for additional discussions that you would want to see. So thanks again, everybody. We're grateful for your time. We give you back the rest of your Saturday. And to Mr. Sani, thank you for driving this program. We think this is a very worthy program. This is why we've platformed it. Hearing from you has even, for me personally, given me a lot of encouragement about the quality of thinking that has gone into this program. And to Mr. Adekunbi, thank you again for enabling us to understand the private sector dynamics that makes this program possible. To the FirstBank team, we thank you, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. So thanks, everybody. Have a great Saturday, and look forward to emails from us next week with links to the program summaries. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Fabi and team. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.